As-Sabiqun wa rahmatullah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala falah. Hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Ahmaduhu wa asta'inuhu wa astadihi wa astaghfiruhu wa umminu bihi jalla wa ala wa la akfuruhu wa ashhadu wa la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. As-salahu bil huda wa dinil haq liyudhhiruhu ala din kullihi wa la kariha al-mushrikun. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, His assistance, and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and messenger. Allah sent Him, that is Muhammad, with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. This way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. Amma ba'd, fa inna astakal hadith kitabullah wa awtaqa al-ura kalimatul taqwa wa khayrul milali milatu Ibrahim wa khayru sunani sunatu Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ashraful hadith dhikrullah wa asadu al-kasasi hadha al-Quran wa khayrul umuri awazzimuha wa shayrul umuri muhdathatuha wa shayrul umuri muhdathatuha wa asnu al-hadyu hadyu al-anbiya wa ashraful maut katlu shuhada. وأما الأمة دلالة البعد الهدى وخير الأمال ما نفاء وخير الهادي ما أتباء وشير الأمة أما الكلب. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said the most truthful of discourses is Kitabullah, the most trustworthy word is taqwa, or fear of Allah. The best of the communities is the community of Prophet Ibrahim. The best way of life is the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The remembrance of Allah is the most glorious of all things. The best of all narrations is the Quran. The best acts are those requiring the highest degree of will and determination. The worst acts are those based on innovation. The best way of life is the one adopted by the prophets of Allah. The most glorious death is the death of the martyr. The most wretched blindness consists of going astray after finding the right way. The best guidance is that which people may be able to follow. The worst blindness is the blindness of the heart. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna Allaha yahmaru bil-adli wal-ihsani wa-itai dil-kurba wa-yanha dil-fashai wal-munkari wal-bagi ya'itakum la'alakum tadhakkarun. Allah commands justice, the doing of good, and liberality to kith and kin. He forbids all shameful deeds and injustice and rebellion. He instructs you that you may receive admonition. فَمَنْ يُرِيدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَدِيَّهُ يَشْرَ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Those whom Allah willeth to guide, He opens their breast to Islam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu attaqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutuna illa wa antum muslimun. O you who believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except in a state of Islam. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khairul mursaleen Muhammadin an-Nabi al-Ummih wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd, yaqul Allah ta'ala fil Quran al-Kareem. Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wasalimu tasliman. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Maulana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa man yuti'i Allahu wa rasulahu fa ulaika ma'alladhina an'ama Allahu alayhim minan nabiyyin was-siddiqin wash-shuhada was-salihin wa hasuna ulaika rafikan. Dhalikal fadlu min Allah wa kafa billati alayman. All who obey Allah and His Messenger are in the company of those on whom is the grace of Allah, of the prophets who teach, the sincere lovers of truth, the witnesses who testify, the righteous who do good, and the beautiful fellowship. What it really says, what a beautiful fellowship. Such is the bounty from Allah, and sufficient is Allah who knoweth all. This is a ayat that talks about certain classes of people, and Nabiyin, it said that the hadith says that there has been as many as 124,000 prophets throughout history, beginning with Adam alayhi salam. And so there's no better companionship than an-Nabiyin, those who bring a message, those who bring the news. Naba is news. So then it talks about an-nabiyin wa-salihin. Wa-salihin, like we have a collection of hadith called Riyad as-Salihin, Garden of the Righteous. So Salihin is those who are righteous, those who attempt to be righteous. And Nabiyin wa Shuhada, those are the people who bear witness to the truth. They bear witness maybe through fighting, jihad, fi sabilillah. They bear witness through visual witnessing. They also bear witness through good behavior. See, the best witness is to act according to the Quran and the Sunnah. There's no better dawah, there's no better invitation to Islam than to act as much as humanly possible as for each individual. And Siddiqeen is the truthful, like Abu Bakr Siddiq, Abu Bakr the veracious, Aisha Siddiqa, the daughter of the veracious. You see, so this is talking, and then the Quran says, "Oh, what a beautiful fellowship." So it mentions as though those four classes of people, and then it goes on. Yuti means to follow or to go after, and ana is the grace, their grace. And again, Siddiqeen, strictly veracious, unquestionably one of the believing ones. Shuhada, again, witness, martyrs. Salah, salihin, righteous, virtuous, good. So this is, and Rafiq is friend, a companion, or associate. So it means this is a beautiful fellowship. That's what the Quran says. And I want to talk a little bit about a fellowship over the past generation or so. We just got this magazine, and it has Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui on the front of it. And this is 1996. He passed away. And he passed away in South Africa. And this was a program, in fact, it's been exactly 20 years ago, April 5th to April 7th, 1996, World Conference in Pretoria, South Africa, creating a new civilization of Islam. And then it has a group of people on here, which I'll talk about a little later. But this is one of the, this is a great global conference in South Africa. And the Zionists, they was jumping up and down. They were seriously mad. So this is something from the Guardian, Sunday Telegraph. Mandela acts as host to men of terror. Now, what Mr. Mandela said, critics also claim that if Mr. Mandela meets Hamas leaders, it would legitimize the group's terrorist campaign and place South Africa in the camp of states sponsoring international terrorism. But Mr. Mandela remains defiant. I will not take any advice as to who my friend should be, he said when asked about the wisdom of extending invitations to extremists. The enemies of the West are not my enemies, and I am not prepared to be dictated to by anybody. Now, Mr. Mandela, in about 98, Bill Clinton was in South Africa. Bill Clinton was trying to tell Mr. Mandela not to be close to Cuba, because it wasn't long before that Fidel Castro, or representative, had visited South Africa. You know, when we was kids, we used to have a saying, "Go jump in the lake." So Mr. Mandela was given his big lecture, and he had Bill Clinton stand there. He says, "As for those people who tell us who our friends should be, when they stuck with us during our darkest hour, they can go jump in a pool." What he meant was Cuba sent troops to Angola. And in Angola, they fought directly South African troops. Many of the Cubans were black, and they wore the South Africans. They're the ones that broke the back of South African invincibility. All of those black troops from Cuba with modern weapons from the Soviet Union that was good as anything South Africa had made itself or got from Israel or got from the United States. And them brothers wore them South Africans out. That's what broke the back of South Africa. More than divestment and all of that. It was Cuban intervention. Now, the West got it bad of telling you who you ought to be friends with. So Mandela is telling Bill Clinton, when these people came to help us, none of you was helping. In fact, you were on the other side helping, right, the Boers against us. Therefore, in this program in South Africa, Mr. Mandela is telling the West the same thing. Because the Zionists are upset about this program. Now, you don't see all the people is there. This is the Global Islamic Conference, creating a new global civilization of Islam. People from Malaysia, Indonesia, all the African and Asians, from Iran, from Pakistan, everybody's there. This is one of those big global conferences. So the Zionists, who have a little strength in South Africa, if you go in Cape Town, you see the railings along the beach there are painted blue and white, same color as flag of Israel. So they're saying, we don't want those people here. He told them just what he said. I will not be dictated to by anybody. Your enemies is not my enemies. This is an example and a role model for us. Because as you move along in life, people will begin to try to dictate to you. And especially if people are your friends or allies, or don't let them be supporting you with a little money, eventually they're going to try to manipulate or control where you're coming from. And at that time, you can either go along with it, or you can stick to your guns. And you can stick to what you know is the truth. So now, we got a crew here. There's a street prayer. There's Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui. There's Yaqub Zaki. He's a professor in Edinburgh, Scotland. Zafar Bangash, And as one of the brothers pointed out, the only Negro on the bill. Well, when Dr. Siddiqui died on April the 18th, my wife and I left on April the 16th. And Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui got in the car with us and rode to the airport. And he was talking to me, and my wife kept asking me, what did he mean by what he was saying? I was just mumbling like I didn't know what he was talking about. But what he was saying was something that he had been saying, because Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui knew, the doctors told him, if you go to South Africa, you're not going to come back, because he had a bad heart. And when he was in South Africa, at this conference, I spoke before him, and he spoke last. When he got up to speak, right in the middle of his speech, he turned white and froze for a minute, and everybody was, like he was almost gone. And then he collected himself together and finished. So everybody knew he was tired. But some of the people on here kept pressing him. Come with us up to Botswana, because we all went up to Botswana to speak. Botswana's next door to South Africa. He said, oh, I'm tired. And so finally he went. But he was tired. He was just about ready to go. Instead of giving him rest, some of our dear friends kept working him. And he was telling them, I'm tired. These are our dear friends. Now, well, his dear friends, supposedly. But you have to remember, I'm going to just be brief and try to explain to you who Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui was. He was the ideologue for that period. Let's say for his first book, big book in 1974, was heavily on Islam away from nationalism. In 1974, everybody was a nationalist. Even the Muslims were nationalists, basically. And he wrote his book saying that nationalism was a trick of the unbelievers against Islam. And it was a colonial trick. And it was true. Everywhere the Muslims were active, right? Whether it was in Egypt, Ikhwan al-Muslimin, whether it was the Muslims in Algeria, the Muslims helped diligently against the struggle against the French in Algeria. But when they got their independence in 1965, 1962, they retired, the FLN, retired all the Muslim generals, retired. Why? That means the nationalists, the Arab nationalists would have power. This happened all over the Muslim world, so that when decolonization period came, the Muslims was not at the table like they should. So all decolonization took on a picture of nationalism. Whether it was the great transitions in Indonesia and Malaysia, they always cut the throat of the Islamic movement so that nationalism would be, we didn't know any better. So all of us, after civil rights, we moved to black nationalism, right? Black liberation, and finally BLA, Black Liberation Army type, and finally we come to Islam, right? I'm trying to tell you that Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui, 10 years ahead of everybody else, wrote his books on Islam. And now during that period, we had many great leaders that we related to ideologically. Imam Hassan al-Banna, Maulana Maududi. For us over here, Maulana Maududi was, they had more books by Maulana Maududi than just about anything else. So all of it, isn't that right? Yeah, in fact, they was visited in 1972, right? In New York, Maulana Maududi shook his hand. I got a picture of it. In fact, he said, his people, when they came over here, he said, work with those African Americans, because that was the future of Islam. Anyway, so those were the people that we were familiar with. After the revolution in Iran in 1979, well, let me regress just a minute, because I want you to understand. In fact, we'll have a program Sunday and a little dinner on Dr. Khalim Siddiqui, so that way I'll speed up and I'll go into detail. But he was an ideologue for us during that period. If you remember Issues of Islamic Movement and Press International, if you read Issues of Islamic Movement, which stopped being printed 1987, if you went back just 10 years from now and you read those, you would be up on the Islamic movement up until then. That's how progressive they was. Only the last post 9/11 and all of that is when we need a new dispensation, let's call it. But Dr. Khalim Siddiqui at the London conference, 1989, this is one of the, any speaker at these big conferences, this is not the London, yeah, this is Islamic Thought Conference. I think this one is in Tehran, but it relates to one of his great speeches, and it's called The Conceptual Framework for Tabligh for the Islamic State of Iran. All the big lecturers had to do a paper, and in front of the lecture hall they had like I have stacks of these. All the big lecturers, I would go and I would collect at least one or two of their lectures. So I would listen to their lecture and I would also read their work. Sometimes they would put extra stuff. That means all the people from Africa, Asia, all of those places, we would get a chance. This is a little booklet from those days. Of course, we have Imam Khomeini, we have Ayatollah Beheshti, and look at the Rahbar. His hair has still got black in it. Sayyid Hussein Fadlala, Ayatollah Jannati. You may not know, this man just passed away not long ago. Ayatollah Mahdavi Khani was a big scholar from Iran. But if you look, you'll see people from all over the world. This is Dr. Khalim Siddiqui. And actually, there's a couple of pictures of people like, okay, here's one of the Rahbar. Look at that, all kind of black in the beard. Rafsanjani looked like a teenager then. Like, he ain't got, now look at here. The dear brother ain't got one smidget of black and gray in the beard. This is a solid black beard. This is a whole row of brothers from Africa. You know, it's not that we're African clique, but we just happen to kind of sit together. So this went on for a long time. I'm trying to give you a little idea about our background. So let's say for 10, 20 years, actually more, even up to today, we attended these conferences. We participated in the conference. We listened to the lecturers. We read their works. What's going to happen within a few years? If you got people from Africa, Asia, the Middle East, all over the world, you're listening. It's like going to a Hausa for 20 years. You're listening to the biggest scholars, right? You're participating. You're hearing about every part of the world, right? So what happens after a while? Pretty soon you begin to evolve. And you evolve beyond everybody else. Why? Because you're not only listening and teaching, but you are under the pressure of the Zionist American government. More than anybody else in the world, because you're here in America running your mouth and talking trash. Now, it's just like in the sports arena. Suppose you playing in all the games. Are you going to progress faster than somebody that's on the bench most of the time? Right? If you're on the bench just looking and hoping, watching the game, that's different than being in the game all the time. Pretty soon, in all the tough games, they come snatch you and stick you in there. Pretty soon, you're going to move beyond. You're going to move above everybody. That's what was going on. That's why Dr. Khalim Siddiqui got in the car, going to the airport in Johannesburg. What he was saying was something that's written in Crescent. He was saying, he didn't say this to everybody else, but he said it particularly. He said, there's a whole lot riding on you, Y-O-U. Why was he saying that? Because we had a certain relationship. In these London conferences, he would, since he's managing the program, he would stage it, you know what I mean, and have the certain people. So everybody on the team plays right at a certain position. My position was to come and explain down-to-earth terms what all of these intellectuals are talking about. Because all they are is good talks, good lectures, but it is not functional. It is not useful. You know what I mean? They don't tell you now we're going to do this next week and this is what's happening and we're going to get ready to go and everything is all right and this is where everything is right now. They can tell you ideologically and philosophically, right? But they won't do nothing. That's why praying out in the street for 500 years will not produce nothing. On purpose. It's on purpose. It looks like revolution, but everybody know, right? If you got a big joint out in everywhere USA, a few miles away, right? And you don't have Jum'ah there, and you have it in the street for what? You can't do marriage counsel in the street, right? You can't unify people. The people will come, rain or shine, snow or sleet for a couple of months, maybe a year or so. After that, they gone. But you don't build community on a protest. It looks like rebellion, but it's not. After Dr. Khalim Siddiqui died, this man here, Yaqub Zaki, I got to get in touch with him. When we was in Cape Town about a year later, he was talking to a brother, one of our good brothers named Alim. They was part of Kibla. That was a revolutionary movement during apartheid. He was mad at what Crescent had become, and he was mad that they were dismembering Majlis Ashura Islamiyya Fi Britannica. That is the Muslim Parliament of Great Britain. This was the greatest step in modern times for Muslims outside of the Muslim world. What was it? A non-territorial government. Dr. Khalim Siddiqui organized in Great Britain, and it worked functionally very well for 4 years. That is a non-territorial government. People throughout that part of the UK, all over the United Kingdom, participated as representatives in a majlis, just like a Congress. And they decided and they voted on it, and they managed as much as they could their lives, but they didn't control the territory of Great Britain. This is a great step. Now, let me go over that again so you understand what it's saying. It is the Muslims outside, they are a minority in a majority society. But they work collectively and they manage their own affairs as much as possible, right, under their own governmental structure. This is what's needed in the West right now. Soon as he died, our dear friends went to work to dismember it, to take it apart, except Yaqub Zaki. This is a white guy. He's a friend of mine. Oh, he was mad. A year later, I heard every word he was saying, but I didn't respond. Why? Because I had to get more stable. What are we going to do? This thing is bigger. Don't start the fight unless you're able to do something, right? Don't just jump up and start hollering. So it took 10 years, at least, for this stuff to materialize. What these people are doing, we had to stand by and watch them dismember collectively the Majlis Ashura Islamiyya Free Britannica. We had to watch the best structure. And all of a sudden, we had a big program in London, 2006. That's 10 years after this. And so they were saying that Iqbal Siddiqui, Dr. Khalim Siddiqui's son was saying, my father's intellectual revolution has not been realized. So I came up and I said, this is not anymore an intellectual revolution. What I meant was, in the early days, we read books and we studied about Imam Hassan al-Banna, we read Sayyid Qutb, you know, Islam, the religion of the future man, and it really gave us hope and ideas. I said, everything now will be determined, it will be events driven. That means events will happen. You notice in the news, event after event after event, trying to shape and herd the Muslims, right? They done already did 9/11 by then. They done already did things around the Muslim world, right? They done invaded Afghanistan. They done invaded Iraq. They done already did all of these events. These events would shape the behavior of the people, right? It's called shaping and herding. So we was telling the Muslims that the events will drive the movement, we won't read books. We don't have to read books anymore. We're in a tussle now. When you're in the ring, you don't stop and read a manual on fighting, right? You're in the fight. The events will determine what's going on. He throw at you, bam, and you hit him back, or you duck. The events going on in that ring is going to determine what you do. You see open, bam, right? Because you're in the middle of the fight. We've been in the fight all along, and all of these big shots have miscalled everything. And some people say it's hasad, jealousy. Some people call it policeism. But everything, I'm telling you, you got to remember, the lectures on Bashara. Bashara means good news. What is that about? That's 2006 when the Zionists, right, invade Lebanon because to help their Palestinian cousins. I mean, the Hezbollah responds, and everybody, oh, poor Lebanon is finished. We said, oh, no. The Zionists going to get their butt kicked on this, and guess what happened? Within a month or two, we had Bashura 1, Bashura 2, and Bashura 3. By the time the third one was out, the Zionist was whooped, and Zionist was crying tears on TV. Okay, because here's the thing. Our people, y'all seen it, y'all remember. There's other things. There will be no Arab Spring. Y'all remember that? What's so important about that? That's important because that means you're taking account of what's going on. What I'm trying to tell you is we have been continuing the work that Dr. Khalim Siddiqui laid out, and nobody else has been that was a part of the crew. You can figure out yourself whether they mean to do it, whether they don't know any better. All I know is wherever we go, our dear friends have been cutting our throats over and over again. That's why I didn't move. He moved right away, but he couldn't do nothing. We waited a good 10 years or more. Pretty soon, we start moving. That's why you start hearing lectures here about certain people. Why would we say something about people who we slept with in the same rooms for all these revolutionary years? It's because people wanted to tell us what to do. And they thought they knew better what we ought to do in America. Either they wanted to stop us, or they were counter-revolutionaries. Now, remember, we didn't speak right away like our brother did. Now, but one thing we knew about Dr. Khalim Siddiqui, he was a good leader. He was real. You know why he was real? Because the people around him was funny. That's a rule. That's just a rule. That is a rule of movement. If you got a good, real person, especially here in the West, you're gonna be surrounded by snitches and stooges and counter-revolutionaries. If you got a good brother in the penitentiary from the old days, and you watch the people go visit those brothers, are polices and snitches. This happened in South Africa, it happens here. What I'm trying to tell you is this. These several decades of survival have put this community on a different level than other people. Or nobody would be able to say, won't be no Arab Spring. Don't take power. Why? Number one, we know all the people of Tunisia, Rashid Ghannouchi. See, remember, the people of these days were all in exile. They were all fighting for liberation. And when they come back home to Tunisia, that's after the Arab Spring, right? The Ikhwan are out during Mubarak's time, right? Doing way back from Abdul Nasser's time, right? During Anwar Sadat's time. So everybody in the last few years that would go back after the Islamic struggle were all friends of ours. From all of these conferences, we all know each other. But the problem is, nobody listens to the Negro. I don't know whether it's jealousy or what it is, because if all these big scholars and big talkers, if the Negro come in, whatever the Negro do, everybody like it. That makes them mad. They've been studying for 200 years. And here's a Negro that's not a scholar. Everybody knows not a scholar, but an Islamic worker. People start acting funny. I don't know why they act funny. It's not my job. But I know we have to have the same mentality when we read about Mr. Mandela. Our friends, your enemies are not our enemies. Nobody is going to tell us what to do. You know why? Because our struggle here in America started a long time ago. A long time ago. And when we come to Islam, we bring all of that history. And that history makes you able to understand. Do not take power right now, Ikhwan al-Muslimin, in Egypt because it's a setup. The same thing about Obama. We said, man, don't take power. Don't let the white lady go forward. You stay back and let her go. Because you can't fix nothing, right? Why would you want to be president and you can't fix nothing? Now, you know, we said that. Actually, the guy did better than we thought he would. He actually stopped the slide. You know, the poor guy did better than he thought he would. Now me, when his inauguration came, all my relatives wanted to come and stay with us. I got in my car and went to California. Said, I'm not going to stay there and watch these niggas dancing in the street, which they was, cold as it was, right? I said, I'm not going to stay here and be a part of this clownery. Why? The white folks put him in power and then blame everything on him, right? You ain't stopped the war. Well, I didn't stop no war. Why should I have to, why are you going to blame me for not stopping the war? George Bush started. Why you blame me for being broke? He's the one that put you in the poorhouse. I didn't. Why are you blaming me? I'm the one that helped your car industry get out of the, you know what I mean? At least I put on the brakes. When George left, you was headed downhill at 200 miles an hour. It's right to Poe House at the bottom of the hill, right? And they at least had you go around the Poe House. Well, you're a little poor, but not in the Poe House. See, when we was young, they called it the Poe House, what it was. Remember that? See, now y'all, they call them all kind of, you know, aid, dependent children. No, so-and-so is in the Poe House. That's what people say, so-and-so. That they had a place that was called the Poe House, where poor people will go. So, and sometime you might be in the Poe House. I said all this to say that we have a mission. And we're proud to be a part of those people who have given their lives, you know, and I just called Canada the other day. I said, brother, I said, Lama Zakzaki, they still killing the brothers over there, da, 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 da. I said, let's hook up international support network for the people. And let's tie it in with all our folks all over. And you can have lovers of Ahlul Bayt all over the world support our people. So we have to have a rapid, response network now. Because it's, whether it's Bahrain, right? Whether it's Saudi Arabia, eastern provinces, right? There's big fitna going on right now, right? So we can't wait month after month, year after year. If they're slaughtering people unjustly in Yemen, we have to respond right away. This is like when you're in a fight, right? You can't wait till he done busted you all upside the head and you respond next week, right? You got to see it coming and move with it. And I was telling the brothers, I said, if you want to, this was related to kind of Shiism in a way. I said, if you want to spread Shiism all over Africa, I said, Allama Zakzaki has brought, it must be millions. He, remember, all these programs, Allama Zakzaki, that's our homeboy from way back. We was all in the struggle then. This is over 30-something years, okay? If the Shia community want to spread Islam in Africa in a big way, first of all, Allama Zakzaki then almost, the work is unbelievable what he's doing. And that's why they trying to kill him. That's why they pop up Boko Haram. That's why the Christians love him, right? Everybody love him. Why? Because he's anti-imperialist, anti-colonialist, and people are flocking to him by the hundreds of thousands. Well, suppose the people of Africa see Muslims, say, who are Lebanese, few from Pakistan, few from Iran, few different colored peoples, help, right, the Shia community. Guess what it does? You don't have to do no dawah. Because Indians in Africa, a lot of it, except South Africa and a few other places, they're looked at as in between colonialists and that. That's why Idi Amin, y'all may be too young to remember, Idi Amin threw all the Indians out. Why? Because they was, hey man, I was in East Africa, and the Indians, whether they were Aga Khanis, Shias, they all lived together. One lady in Dar es Salaam, her daughter was going to marry African. She said, I'll burn myself in the middle of the street. All the stores, shops, owned by Indians, right? Then you take West Africa, you got a lot of Lebanese and others who are sucking the money out of the people. But suppose when our brother is in trouble, few people from Lebanon come in to help, right? Oh, they blew up your schools and houses. We're going to build a community right here for you. We're going to help. We're going to bring in the money. Y'all going to do the building, and we're going to just be around a little bit. Supposing an Alim come, he from Pakistan, Indian looking, right? What does that do to the people? That changes the picture of what Africans view, right, as those people. Allah handed them a victory, and they got their finger stuck in their butt. Today, right now. They won't listen to the Negro. I don't know. I'm just like Mandela, to tell you the truth. I tell her, oh no. When I was in Iran a few months ago, they took a couple of months. Well, we think you should do that. I said, you must be crazy. I said, I don't want y'all, none of y'all coming over there with none of that mess. I know what to do. If you want to help, fine, help. But I don't need you and your ideas. Well, we were successful. You were successful there. You weren't successful in the U.S. Well, you don't have enough people. I said, just to be alive, buddy, in America, you don't understand. So don't you see this here? Look here. I can breathe. But you don't have, I said, we got 2 full places. We had 10, so what? We still got 2. We own everything, it's ours, don't you worry. Well, I said, that is good, stupid. And I actually called him, I said, it's good. Nobody in America have called the white man you're a punk and you're a sissy, right? Remember how to punk the FBI? Number 1 and 2. What did it, remember the open letter to the police, DC police? What did we tell them? You ought to get hormone therapy. You're acting funny, right? That's calling them funny. Right down there, and went down to the police. How you don't do that? Nobody else do, and still walking around live. If I die tomorrow, so what? I already took the record. Ain't nobody else did it. Ain't been around that long. We're doing it on purpose. It's like old Donald Trump just talking trash to get all the heat on him. We're doing that on purpose to draw all the heat to us on purpose. We know what we're doing. So the other Muslims can develop. They develop a big mosque, but they're so scared that then we come around and try to visit us. You can't tell them, we've been drawing heat off y'all on ourselves. At least invite us to dinner. No, you got too much heat on you. We don't even want, can you imagine? Nobody even called, are you alive over there? Well, did the police beat you that bad? They don't ask nothing. They read it and say, oh my goodness, I ain't calling to find out. Hey man, we're going to speed up a little bit. I keep lying about I'm going to make them short khutbahs, but you're not lying, that's not what I'm doing. But stuff happens every week, 2 or 3 times a week. And by the time you get here, the thing is, see, we got it good here. But our brothers in Bahrain have been treated like dogs, man. Our brothers in eastern province of Saudi Arabia have been treated like dogs. Alama Zakzaki and them are being murdered today. Right? So we got it good. All they do is take me down to the police station and talk trash, or have the dog smelling all in the car. The other week, throw all the stuff out looking for dope, stuff like that. Right in front of the penitentiary, you drive past El Reno. Now, I know that. And I'm looking, man, that's El Reno, the federal penitentiary. I've been there 3 or 4 times in transit, 11 words here and there. And I'm looking over there, and here's the police. Pull over. The questions he asks, that he ain't there. Is this your car? Why didn't you ask for my license or something? Anyway, the dog smells dope. I said, the dog don't smell no dope. I said, the dog run up to the car and then run back. If the dog, not that I used to deal dope, if the dog smelled dope, he'd circle around it and bark and all that, right? He wouldn't smell it and run back. He would be there hollering and tail wagging. That's dope back there. That's what the dog is trained to do, right? So they just want to search your car. Their harassment is small. That ain't nothing. We're here in America, dear believers. We're here in America. We have an opportunity. Don't you know Allah is going to ask us, what did you do? What did you do during that time when the Muslims, right? When the revival, remember, we're having a revival. Like that lecture you saw from Iran in the paper, the reason they put that in the paper, that was telling them exactly what they thought they ought to be doing. Tell them you got to have a vision for Iran. You got to teach your children what you've done. See, the children in Iran don't know that they didn't survive over 35, 36, 37 years with everybody trying to wipe them out. And that resistance economy, right, is what's got them there. They're independent. Well, we're not. I said, I said, you think you're doing bad? I said, if you think your house is run down, look at your neighborhood first. I said, what about your neighbor, Pakistan? How's things there? Oh, we're doing a lot better than Pakistan. I said, how about Afghanistan? Oh, my God, we're doing way better than that. Oh, well, what about Iraq? Well, is that a war? thousands of people, maybe 1 million dead. Then all of a sudden, their country starts looking good. You know what I mean? Instead of hollering about how bad your house is, look at your neighborhood first. Look at your neighbors, and then you say, oh, well, what does Allah gave them? Allah handed them the opportunity to be the leaders and the managers of that whole region. So all the good people, remember, that strategic alliance, our brothers used to be by themselves. But now, if you got Russia, Syria, right, Iraq, and Iran all on the same team, that's why you see Saudi Arabia going to Egypt, saying, we're going to give you plenty of money. Telling Turkey, hey, we're going to give you some money too, right? Hooking up all the people. Why? They did it before. The only thing that's different now, Saudi Arabia used to get everybody on their side, and now it's a balance of forces, right? That means that Allah hands them a victory, but they have to outgrow their internal little petty stuff, right? Who's going to lead, who's going to do this, our party, our group, right? They have to outgrow that. That's what we told them in Iran. You got to outgrow all of that because you got to lead the whole region. Remember years ago? Regional victory. Nobody was talking about that. That's a big deal. That's why the white man is mad. Because the Negro hit the nail on the head every time, right in front of all y'all. You can't say you hadn't heard it. You can't say you didn't hear it. Every time. That's from being in the movement all of these years. Living in Africa, being all around, you have to be an idiot not to be able to pick up on the trends. Now, once you pick up on the trends, you say, oh my goodness, whew, it's a big deal here. You know, once you find out, then you get a clear picture of what challenges you have to face, right? So all you have to do is turn everything to a victory. Anything anybody do to you, you change it to a challenge and to an opportunity. That's why, and I'll move toward a close, all the stuff that's been happening to our community over the last few years have been them trying to shape and herd us. Shape and herd. That means that like the other community, you do a little something. You have 911. Okay, they move over here. Then you have another little something. They move over there. Right? Pretty soon they have affected your behavior. Right? So in California, they have the Negroes coming and challenging and acting crazy, sticking their finger in our face, everything. Why? Because they want you to fight the Negro. And remember, one thing about our history, you can go back to Oakland, we've never wasted time on niggas. Never fight the pond. Keep your mind on the one that's causing the trouble. But all the dummies will always go and fight that nigga first. That's why we say we don't like niggas that'll bust another nigga upside the head. Right? Now they've been trying it. They tried it right up on the hill. They had all the Negroes, some of y'all remember. They done had several incidents around here. The people come, join us for a minute, try to engineer a fight. Everywhere. It was around there on 8th Street, around here, everywhere. Try to engineer a fight between you and the community. Who's the community? It's they Negroes. Remember, they're going to move. When we bought this place, first thing we did is looked at who lived in the area before we even paid for it. And after we bought it and they see we moving around here, then we looked at who they had moved around here. It wasn't the same people. They moved polices in here. Why? To try to cause us trouble. Over the years, when they couldn't cause us no trouble, when they couldn't get us to fight. See, that's what a pawn is. You know, I don't play chess, but I know that a pawn is a little sucker, right? Suppose you go fight in the pond. The king ain't getting to keep your mind and your eye on the king and the queen. I know that. Keep your eye on the big stuff. That's why we still here. They're always trying to get us to fight Mukhtar. Mukhtar is a fool. Mukhtar is a henpecked Negro. Right? It gotta be a big old fat wife telling him what to do. And he's stupid enough to do it. She tells him, go do it, you run around and do it. Why would I want to go hustle at Abdul Malik? Abdul Malik is another henpecked brother. Not henpecked, he's broken-hearted. He thought he was going to be a player. Telling me in '83, yeah, you got to think like a pimp. I said, this boy needs, coming up a college boy. Not that all the biggest pimps, the Ward brothers, Frank Washington, all the big Negroes is my homeboys. And I'm in that environment. And here's a guy in college telling me, I said, think like a pimp. I said, I'm an Imam now, I'm trying to get like a Muslim. So? No, it's serious. Them coons, now these coons, you remember me telling you about the curly-headed crew? I'm going to close up in a minute. Curly-headed crew. Oakland, we call it as the Masjid turns. You know, as the world turns, because Oakland, they always got romance stuff. All the time. Who going with who? And I go out there and they said, they want some counselor, young ladies. Well, what's going to happen to me, Imam? Black in the eye. I said, hell, I don't know. What's going to happen to you? So anyway, I get to the point. You know, this is the curly-headed crew. You know what they look like. You see Berkeley's. So anyway, they believe. Dark skin, round features, stubby nose, big lips, dumb. Pointed nose, thin lips, wavy hair, smart. They believe it. I mean, they indoctrinated. They almost like they from New Orleans. They believe it with their heart. I mean, they believe it. That's why I call them the curly-headed crew. So Miss Curlyhead, her mama's white, daddy's black. We call her Halle Berry. So, but she looks about 97% Halle Berry. She looks just like that. That's why we call her that. Anyway, long story short, he wants to hook up with her. He hooks up with her. And the ladies are always calling me, I hate this man. I said, you married him, you can't call me every day, and didn't stop. So anyway, doing this, to prove they manhood, popping their finger. I said, why you do that? You shouldn't do that to our people. You know what I mean? You shouldn't do our people like that. Well, China boy, the minister at you know where, in San Francisco, in '84, the same person was at the East Oakland Development Center, and the minister snapped his finger and pointed at his briefcase. And our great speaker put the briefcase up and walked up right along behind us. I said, oh my goodness. Now, you know, I do work. I would, if you asked me, would you carry this, or would you, I'd be happy to. I'd push the lawnmower, don't make no difference. But you couldn't do that. You know, unless you just want it broke. You know, when you probably wouldn't know what's wrong with you. Right? So, he picked up the, I said, man, I gotta help the guy. So anyway, you talking about as the masjid turns, I'm gonna speed up and tell the story. Anyway, they believe in this, you know what I mean, complexion stuff. So, the girl is teaching in school. Abdul Malik is the so-called Imam, Amir. So the little girl is a 15-year-old boy. I think he's half Moroccan or something. No, his mama's Hawaiian, like, You know how California folks is. They all blended up. So, but he is super light-skinned and wavy hair. She gets pregnant by this guy in the school. Then he gets a bank robbery or something and go to jail. And this breaks the Playboy's heart, you know what I mean? Because now everybody know this, because the curly-headed crew in other places are friends of mine, and they tell me, yeah, she's pregnant by 15. I said, 15-year-old boy, good God Almighty. Says it's pretty serious stuff. But I'm just telling you, when niggas lose their focus on Islam and try to play game, Allah will slap the mess out of you with just what you're trying to avoid. That ain't it. That ain't all. After the pregnancy, then the boy got a mama. She's half something or other. And the daddy is a tar baby, blackish tar. Now the girl is one of them light-skinned girls, but her daddy is black and she loves black niggas. So her stepdaddy, the stepdaddy of the boy, they elope. Girl have 2 more children or something. What I'm telling you is, the Negro that's telling me about pimping was so broken-hearted. You know, when you're looking out in the sky and slobbering outside of your mouth. And I said, man, you gotta get back to life, man. You know what I mean? So you try to help people because I'm telling you, but that's from that snapping their fingers at people. That's from that convoluted picture of what reality is. Okay, what I'm trying to say to us, and I'll close. Global strategy of Islam. We got a lot of work to do. Why would y'all sit here and listen to me all of these times and the whole world is changing and the whole God is giving us an opportunity? Just like CARE and all of them, they wanted to be ahead of civil rights stuff, right? Well, guess what Allah gave them? Here's immigration. Here's Black Lives Matter. Here's the police in and out of all the masajid all over the country. God then gave them an opportunity to be exactly what they wanted, and they break out and run the other way. Right? That's why you badilu, exchange, change. Allah will change, exchange, substitute you for somebody else. That's why those people at CARE and everybody else, if they don't do their job, which so far they're not, Allah gonna change them. Allah gonna nullify them. They won't be nothing. Look at all the people that's been cutting our throat and urinating on us for the last 30 years. Where are they at? People making fun of, here comes Imam so-and-so, come on up. And he runs up there. Allahu Akbar, and the people making fun of the nigga. He deserved it. Because they chopped the Negro's throat. They started manna or Anna or anything else to divert the black community, and the foreign community is making fun of them coons. And they get up there and do anything they can to cut their brother's throat. That's the reason that when our friends said, you got a good job to do, and you look around and you say, well, that's a pretty serious job. And just like Mr. Mandela said, don't make no difference whether you like it or not, right? It's our job. And remember, Allah gonna call us to account. And when you go before Allah, ain't gonna be nobody there but you, right? So Allah then gave us Islam after all that foolishness that we've been through, right? What should we do with it? They can't make you do nothing. All the stuff they was doing was to make us do what they wanted us to do, and they made us do nothing. They failed at everything. They even stole money out of the accounts. We said, we'll check it out later when we get ready. Why? Because you can't make me respond to nothing. You think they don't look stupid? They look stupid. Why? Because everybody knows what they've been doing, and it don't have no effect. Can you imagine one group of Negroes affecting the whole government in front of everybody? Who's winning the war? We are, hands down. Hands down. Who's losing? They're losing every day. Every day we're alive is another win. Every day we talking trash like right now, when this stuff go on the video thing, hey man, the people look at it and say, and then they go to do a little research. And then they find out that stuff is true. This stuff is all true. Remember, no matter how far they're going to go back, brothers and sisters, it talked about and Nabiyin, wa Siddiqin, wa Shuhada, wa Salihin. Oh, what a beautiful fellowship. And Nabiyin, those, we can't be with the prophets, but we can follow and we can look, see what they say. And we can take struggle. So if Noah was one of the Anbiya, and he was with the people for 950 years, probably 2 or 3 people with him. Even when it was time to drown, his son said, no, I'll hop on me a mountain. Right? So that shows us we don't have to have what they say is success now. If that prophet can do it for 900 years, why can't we hustle another 50, 60 years? Right? Because we got to do the work alive. Remember in the Quran when it talks about it wasn't you through, it was me. When it said that Allah gave 3,000 angels, it says sometime it'll be 5,000 angels. The prophet threw a handful of dust. Technically, the prophet threw the dust, but the Mufassirs, those who write Tafsir of Quran, they say he threw it, but Allah aimed it. You see what I mean? And Nabiyin. Wa Shuhada. This is the witnesses, it's the martyrs. We are giving up hundreds and thousands of martyrs every day in the Muslim world. And the main markster is right here. Why don't we go on and jump on this sucker? He can't do nothing but kill you. If you die as a martyr, wouldn't you like to go to paradise? Who'd like to go to paradise? Go ahead. Ain't nobody in no hurry. You want to go, everybody wants to go to heaven, but don't nobody wants to what? Die. I understand. But if you try incremental, you know what? Once you try this Islam and you start implementing it, you're going to start getting high. Psychologically high. I'm not talking about that little weed y'all was smoking. That ain't no high. Because you go up, you come down. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about a little bit of blow, ting-a-ling-a-ling. I'm not talking about that. You know, I'm the biggest dope dealer. I lived in South America. The cocaine would still be warm when it came out. So I know what good cocaine is like. This high is better than that. This high is totally different. All of those take you up, you come down anywhere. Crazy. This high is a ethical, a moral, a spiritual high that can't nobody bring you down. You know when you smoke some good weed, then a nigga come by and he bring you down, right? Man, you're bringing me down. Talking that mess, right? Can't nobody do that to you. Can't nobody bring you down on Islam. Once Allah gets you up there, hey man, you're going to be either way up or kind of up, but you're going to be juiced up all the time. You're never going to be afraid. And if you are afraid, it's just a little temporary fear. You don't have to be no gorilla 24 hours a day, because everybody get a little scared, maybe about 10 minutes. You might think, oh man, I don't know if I want to do that. That's just 5 or 10 minutes. The rest of the time, you're juiced up and ready to go. Dear believers, this is a time for resistance of evil. We resist this evil. We resist it with Quran. We could use nationalism and all that, but it ain't no good. It'll go away. Islam, hey man, it'll get us there all the way. Remember, and Nabiyin, Siddiqeen, people are truthful. You see what, if Mandela can tell the truth, he said, your friends or your enemies are not my enemies. You ain't telling me what to do, right? Suppose you could tell your boss, you ain't telling me nothing. I don't like what you said. You can't say it because you're tied in the system, you got your health care, your insurance, you got your house, you got all them payments, so you can't do that. But suppose, right, you was in a condition where you say, you cannot make me work against my brothers. You can't make me do what I know is wrong, right? Because if you work in this system, you're going to do some wrong with somebody. If you're a police, they're going to, sooner or later, you're going to beat some Negro upside the head. If you just write tickets, you got to write tickets on all the poor people, right? So if you work in the system, if you're a school teacher, you're going to read that book, you're going to say, that ain't the truth. Well, you can go teach in your own school, right? But if you teach here, you're going to teach them that an Indian giver is a person that gives you something and then take it back. That's a white man giver, right? Not an Indian giver. Indians never broke a treaty. They never lied. You can't find it in history. But they changed it to an Indian giver is a liar, right? And I'll close with this. And then niggas is lazy. You would be too. If you've been picking cotton, y'all a little too young to be picking cotton. Anybody pick cotton? Well, some of y'all over this way. How about tobacco? Y'all do a little tobacco. Y'all ain't ever did no work. Y'all don't know nothing about work. Y'all been in the city all the time with running water. Man, y'all been had it good. Y'all been had indoor plumbing all your life and electric lights. No wonder y'all ain't doing nothing. Shoot, man. Y'all been had it good. I mean, like real good. If you was born down in Dixie when you looked outside, you saw a little watermelon patch there and cotton. And you know what you did with that? You got a sack and walked down the rows picking that cotton. And then you took it to the wagon, and they had a big old scale, and you put the cotton on one side, they put something on the other. And you weighed off your cotton. You'd be lucky if you get 100 pounds in that sack, 200 pounds if you really work hard, but you still don't have no money. And I close. Suppose they tell you, you go out to California, you go up to New York, they got something called welfare. Now here in Mississippi, if you work 12 hours a day, you get $2 in those days. You go out to California, they got something called welfare. Do you know that you could get $100 a month for nothing? Would you do it? Of course you would. You're going to work 12 hours a day in Mississippi and get $2 per day, and you go out to California, they got welfare. And then if you get a job in the cannery and work enough to get unemployment, when there ain't no more fruit, you go and you can get $55 a week unemployment. And your girlfriend is on welfare. It's in the 50s. Man, the Negro had it good. We come barefooted out of the country and come to California. They got electric lights and streets. You know where it ain't mud, you can't drive in them streets down in the country then. That's why y'all ain't ready to fight. You've been up here with electric lights, the most smooth streets. They're not smooth to you, but those are smooth streets. And the water go down the sewer instead of into your house. You know, like a flood, you know, regularly. if you struggle in the cause of Allah, you ain't gonna get flooded with nothing. You struggle in the cause of Allah, you got a chance to go to heaven. And if you struggle in the cause of Allah, you got a chance to make up for how they whipped and beat your parents and worked them like dogs for hundreds of years. It's not get back, but don't you want to rectify something? You know. And I will close. If somebody takes your language, your culture, and your religion, you're an empty vessel. You don't know nothing. You don't know where you come from. You don't know nothing. They done took your language and took your culture, right? They done took your religion. And then they tell you who you are, right? That's cold-blooded, right? So he tell you, shoot that nigga because he ain't no value. But don't shoot no white man, right? That's why right now today, remember all these, the police come by, the niggas throw their guns away. Hide them. Isn't that right? But if you step on his foot and you a nigga, he'll shoot you. Won't he? He'll stay in the middle of the street. The other day, niggas that's in the street, I didn't even say nothing. I got to get by, so I look up in there. I don't want to say nothing. I just wait. Because he ain't got no sense. He's there in the street. He can see I want to get by, right? And he can see he don't need to be in the street. I ain't going to say a word to him because it ain't worth it, right? Because the man is uneducated. Who uneducated him? The system did, right? The whole system. Don't you want to change this system? But Allah says, and I close, Allah will not change the condition of a people until what? They change themselves. Anfusihim. Dear believers, we thank Allah for allowing us to come to Islam, and we ask Allah to help us be an agent for good in the world. Well, Allah, we seek that refuge from anxiety.